Think that just because a guy reads comics, he can't start shit?
Have you heard of Comics by Perch?
No.
Okay. Comics by Perch is not as easy to read. Okay, so let's just check out this video. I think it'll be a good litmus test for us and our judgment of this guy.
So this is the Tipper Gore experience. I have no idea who this is.
This is Comics by Perch. I said 80,000. He's only got 47,000. Not to say act like that's not much or anything, because
That's a lot of people, yeah.
More than me. But this is a video it's from 10 months ago. And it says, "Was Iceman always gay? The comics seem pretty clear on the subject." And now, this is not your average typical comics. We wouldn't be watching it if it was just like some comic skater like, "Oh, Iceman gay." This is super. He's engages with this stuff with more nuance. He seems to, more so than thinking critical, he's actually looking to the text and he's showing, what he's talking about. I don't think his mistake is in his read of the comics necessarily, but we'll get there. For anyone that's not aware, several years ago, Iceman, Bobby Drake in the X-Men comics was revealed to be gay.
In the Bendis run.
Yep. With the way that it was revealed was not great, not good at all, and he mentions that, and we'll get to talk about that as well. But
right, we'll go into it.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'll probably regret this, but
okay. First of all, Perch, get a pop filter, dude. You hearing that pop whenever he says?
I hear.
He needs a pop filter or something.
I won't say nothing because I don't have a pop filter, but
yours doesn't do that, and it also you don't. He's like right up on the mic. It seems like
he cuddles with it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Here goes anyway.
Radio 101.
Again, I believe in fair is fair. And so when Brian Michael Bendis revealed, and really in a hacky way, I mean, it's funny for all the people who've celebrated Bobby Drake being gay, they kind of gloss over the fact that Jean Grey basically outed him by reading his mind.
Point number one. No, they don't. I have heard and seen many people discuss this point. Many people.
Yeah. I think when I read it, I was like, that's because it's sort of her arc in that comic. Like his story is the one we all remember in it, right? Because it's the one that, changed the direction of the character. But her whole arc in that is because originally her powers in the X-Men was that she was telekinetic and that Professor X was telepathic, and her telepathy develops later.
Right.
And that by traveling to the future, she develops it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And
kind of like being aware that she could be that powerful, basically kind of like kickstarted it for her or something.
Right. And so she is not, throughout this comic, she's not using her powers responsibly. And this is a case of that.
Yep. And so from what I remember though, and maybe you can correct me, is it addressed in the text that she did a stupid, shitty, fucked up thing here?
I would have to go back and read it. It's been...
From what I remember, I don't think it did. I haven't read all the issues around that time, so maybe it was addressed eventually. But I'm not sure Bendis realized doing this was not cool.
Right.
It kind of seems like Bendis might have done it ignorantly, thinking it's a clever way to reveal that Iceman's gay and not understanding the implications of it. Because you don't out people,
No.
Even if you're not a psychic, or even if you are. It's just not a thing to do.
Rachel Gray would never do that. She would never out you for knowing.
I mean, to be fair, Mark, this is about whenever Bendis stopped being very appealing for me as well. Like he kind of just seemed to run out of ideas after a while, and was like, they kept putting him on stuff to just like, here, make this good now, or whatever. And it's like,
he was the firefighter, and that's what it was, right? We don't know what to do with this storyline with these characters, and then
give it to Bendis.
Right?
He literally, because be credit to Bendis, and I will always fucking stand in his corner on this whenever people are like, Bendis just sucks. It's like, dude, the Avengers would not be a thing that matters without Bendis. Literally wouldn't. But yeah.
It was not, I mean, I don't know, as far as progressive people coming out of the closet goes, having a telepath kind of rip the secret out of your head and then confront you with it feels like a really insensitive way to go. But
You're right, Perch. It is. It's
It's
insensitive.
true.
It's irresponsible. It's shitty, and then it gets talked about. Maybe he's just not in, progressive, really just even liberal circles, but it gets talked about. It was talked about then.
Yeah.
It's talked about. Like, so that's just a straw man argument that he's making there, point that he's making that it just doesn't get talked about.
whatever, water under the bridge, right? At any point, this sparked a huge debate. If you've been noticing in comics, of is he truly gay or not, or why they retcon him to be gay, and just he wasn't gay, or yes, he always was gay. And the side that was going with the signs were always there, were mainly referring to a lot of headcanon and
So he conflates a couple of things here with, and it's weird because I don't think anybody has. I think he even says that people were saying that Stan Lee always intended for him to be gay. I don't know anybody that made that claim.
I've never heard that before, that was a Stan Lee thing.
There's literally an audio, or I have a video. I think maybe it's just audio. I forget. Whenever he learned, apparently in the moment, that they had made Iceman gay.
Of course, keep up with the times. And this year we had, I think it was this year that we had the news that Iceman had come out as gay. Is that right?
I wasn't involved in that. That may have been after I stopped writing the books. In fact, you're telling me that is the first I had heard that Iceman really gay?
Had you not heard that?
No.
It was in the New York Times last week, but I think it happened earlier this year.
I don't read the magazines anymore because my eyesight isn't that good.
And he was like kind of surprised by it. So like, I don't know that it's even. I don't know who he's seeing making that claim, but. No, of course, Stan Lee didn't write up him to be gay. That wasn't a thing that he did.
No, that's we're in the comics code era still, right? Of course not.
But what they're doing, that I think that he's misrepresenting these positions probably, is finding, because they're in good faith, is the difference between what they're doing and what he's doing. Is they're going, okay, I'm accepting that Iceman is gay now. Now, with that in mind, I can look back to the older comics and find a way to make it, as he said, headcanon, but it's actually canon if you want it to be in this case. You can make a case for why, that actually shows that, maybe he was, and stuff like that. So that's probably that's
the quality of a good retcon, is you can see there's enough things to hang it on, right?
True. And to his credit, this panel is one that I've used before.
Yeah.
And it's a good one to use because it's literally the first issue. and you got right here, you just see Iceman's foot is the only thing in the panel. Is like,
going the other way, yeah.
Fucking girls. Ugh. No, he doesn't say girls, but like there's a couple. Yeah, sorry, we'll get there.
Fanfic that was written on the internet saying, I think he's gay because of kind of these vague reasons. But one of the reasons they gave, and now it's become kind of the poster child for why, Stan Lee always intended Bobby Drake to be gay, comes down to one panel in X-Men #1.
So yeah, once again, I just have to reiterate, maybe he misspoke when he said that. I don't know, but
can you pull up his, can you minimize the video and pull up his details? Pull up the below the video doobly-doo stuff. The more, I want to see. He doesn't have like.
He literally writes that it's not a misspeak. He says, looking at the famous panel that some say is proof Stan Lee always intended Iceman to be gay. It's funny how he doesn't name anyone specific there whenever he's talking about him.
And I don't even doubt that someone has said that on the internet, because the internet's a big place.
You can find someone saying every dumb thing on the internet.
Right. But I don't know that I would make a video without someone who is in comics, right? If a prominent X-Men writer were to say, well, Stan Lee always intended that, then I think there's a little more there.
Right. Well, I mean, so he says that, and then of course the top comment is hearted here, and that's built on this idea that Stan Lee, people are claiming that about Stan Lee. It's like, man, you are creating phantoms more or less to fight with. If you saw some comment or something, some tweet where somebody said that, then fucking block out the name and show the tweet and make fun of that person.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Right. just show us something, right? Like people are saying, well, okay, yeah, that's some tabloid behavior, and let's not engage in that. But
Literally tabloid, but yeah, it's just some people are talking about this.
right,
It's that's how exactly how you create a narrative out of nothing. Well, I did just say, and when I said that, Mark, I said cross out their name if you got a tweet or something about it, and it's like somebody
yeah,
with a
you
similar
block out their
platform.
name.
Just use the tweet so you can show that somebody actually has said this, and then just so you can go, yeah, this person is wrong, and then
Right.
explain why.
That is at least more than he does here.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying it's ideal. I wouldn't make a video about that, but
No,
if you just have to make a video about this, then
yeah,
do it that
I
way.
would say like my standard for it would be someone who is writing X-Men says this was Stan's intention. Then we can have that then we can have a conversation about it where I think this is kind of shadow boxing.
Right, exactly, Greg. And this is
Yeah.
how it was intended. I mean, as Perch goes on to point out, Bobby was the younger of all these boys too. So
Right.
like he just hasn't gotten to the point where he's girl crazy yet or whatever. That's how Stan was probably thinking of it.
Still afraid of cooties or something.
Yeah.
One. And the panel's on the screen now, and it basically, you've seen this before. Jean Grey is coming to the school, Xavier's school, and she's new. And Professor X has gotten all the boys all horny about it, saying, we got a girl coming. And so all the guys are at the window going,
I take issue with the idea that Professor X got them
Yeah,
horny.
that's weird. That's like
They're teenage boys. Professor X mentioned a girl and they got horny.
yeah, like I don't want to ding him too much for this, just because like
it's
yeah, like I feel like I'm picking nits, but also that framing is kind of gross. But anyways,
Well, I mean, I guess I'm trying to be about as pedantic as it seems like he might be.
fair enough.
You're right, sir. Wow. She's a real living doll. By the way, it's worth noting that in these early issues of the X-Men, Professor X was harboring a pretty deep romantic, feelings for Jean as well. It was creepy as AF, as they say. Anyway, Cyclops, Angel.
This is such a good point, Mark, and it highlights exactly the underlying thing, which is, does he also have videos about how, no, she
Yeah.
wasn't always intended to be the Omega level, or no, it betrays the character that Professor X has made so many, morally gray and fucked up choices since Stan Lee, the original creators, wrote him. You know what I mean? You don't see videos like that, but what you do see videos about, interestingly,
Right.
is this, and that's
yeah. Sometimes the music is the notes you don't hear played, right? Like it's
exactly, yeah. The notes that aren't played can speak a lot.
yeah, and so I think that I think Mark makes a great point is that like, it's weird that when we talk about how these characters have been retconned, that's a very specific thing to call out, even about Bobby Drake, right? If we're talking about Iceman, his powers have changed radically over the years, more so than just he was in the closet.
Yeah, I doubt anybody would have thought that he was essentially immortal before, back in the day. You know what I mean? Which
Right.
kind of is now. I mean,
Yeah.
aside from Krakoa and Resurrection, Iceman just seems kind of immortal.
Yeah, independently of Krakoa and Resurrection, he is effectively immortal because when you're made of water.
Yeah, if there's basically a molecule of moisture left over, he can come back.
He will be back. Yeah, he's the goddamn Terminator, which is cool. Like I like that. But yeah, it's interesting that this is the video about Bobby's retcon that we get, and not that.
Right. Yeah. Why don't you complain that he's got an ice golem that's I forget the name, what he named it, but it basically it acts as his kind of like his dumb sidekick.
Right.
He can call this thing forward. Like, complain about that, or is that, I don't know.
Or like, you want to talk a character that's been retconned, Beast. Holy cramoly.
Yeah.
That's a character they have taken places. Many of them not very good.
Oh, the places will go. I think they're getting ready to,
Push the reboot on that guy.
and I think that was probably always intended. Honestly, I think
I
that they're
think
gonna,
so.
they'll probably bring him back from a save spot where before he, who went a
Yeah.
little kooky. But yeah.
Angel and Beast are leaning out the window, basically a redhead. Look at her face and the rest of her. All of a sudden, I'm in no hurry to graduate from this place, says the Beast. And then, Iceman is shown walking away. And Bobby says, "A girl, big deal. I'm glad I'm not."
Yeah, imagine telling like Jack Kirby, he comes back, he's like, "Hey Jack, do you know Danger Room? That's a person now. What the fuck are you talking about?" He probably punch
It's a
you.
goddamn robot.
He fucking punch you in the face for saying that shit. Yeah.
Not a wolf like you guys. And so people have used this scene to basically say, aha, the signs are there. He was gay all along. The problem with that is that
The problem with your video, Perch, is that it is completely based on a fallacy. That you're, if you wanted to make the point that, I don't know, basically any other argument almost other than this one, like this is the more I think about it, the more bad faith it seems.
I don't want to keep hearing it out. I want to see what
Okay,
conclusion
sorry.
he reaches
Yeah.
before I
Fair enough.
pass
Fair-
judgment. But
fair enough.
I
Let's
see
do
where
that.
you're going.
first of all, on the exact same page that this panel is in, a few panels down below, when Jean Grey actually enters the school and meets the X-Men, all the guys are shown walking close to her, and Bobby is grinning like an idiot, like all the others, excited to meet the girl.
So we're watching a video by Comics by Perch, and he's a guy who has been on kind of like my periphery for a while. As someone who I know has, I wish I would have made mental note about the videos that over the couple of years that like I would look at like with a side eye kind of thing. He's not explicitly comics gay, as far as I know. He doesn't use the language that a lot of these people use, but much in the same way that like EFAP will cover a lot of the same stuff and come to the same general conclusion that this thing is bad as like Geeks and Gamers, even though they're not as on the nose about what they're, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the vibe I get from him, and I don't. That might be wrong. I'm fully willing to accept if it's just not the case. Well, I mean, we'll get there. Look, I mean, anybody can have good points. I was talking about Ethan Van Sciver earlier. He had some good points, but I mean,
we're 3 minutes in, and I'm not like this guy is scum of the earth. So
no.
I'm
And
willing to give him his day in
we're
court.
not gonna come to that point. I don't believe. Like, I don't think that he's. Look, the guys that I usually cover on this channel make Perch seem like a goddamn angel. But I am kind of tired of talking about some of the more cartoonishly guys, and I think I'm capable of more nuanced criticism of people who have more nuanced takes that I disagree with, I suppose. So yeah, kind of trying it out. Onward.
Bobby is then just a few pages later. We see Bobby leaning around the corner of a room, saying, "Wowee, she looks like she was poured into that uniform."
Now, I told my girlfriend this line earlier, and she said that is absolutely a line that a gay guy could make about a woman, and and it makes sense. Yeah, it's like, and I feel like Perch is probably assuming that this line is just something that a straight guy would say about a woman, right? That's what it seems like. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I can see someone is attractive without being attracted to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I can recognize the photography, as it were.
Yeah.
But not want to move there.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And like,
right, like, oh, this person is attractive. Okay, cool. Like, and again, I think that I think he's kind of tunneled himself on like, this comic has to prove that Bobby was always intended to be gay for Perch, is the vibe I'm getting, and I feel like that's just a bad premise to start from.
Yeah, this
What?
foundationally, like the premise is flawed of this video, and basically that means that anything, it may seem like we're just looking for points to take apart or something like that, but really the fact is, because the premise is flawed, we're gonna find nothing but things to pick apart in the video.
Right, like, and I also think if we're gonna overanalyze it, right, like, he is the youngest boy in a school of boys. There's this thing called peer pressure.
Yeah, so I had asked my girlfriend about this, a little while ago. I was like, so, because like she knows people, and I think she said her brother is someone who's lived a lot of life as a straight, as it were, before realizing he was gay,
Right.
and that's common, and that's one of
Turns out.
the silliest things that I see people like. At least Perch isn't making that point, right?
Right, he
At
did
least
not
he's not.
jump to that point, right? Like,
And he gets credit for that. He's not just like, "Oh, yeah, how come he's had all these girlfriends over the years?" It's like, well, I guess you don't know how human beings operate sometimes, but yeah, it's
and I
people.
think he was right hitting on that, like, yeah, Jean Grey abused her powers, and that's not cool, right? Like, and
Yes.
I do agree that that doesn't get enough coverage in the conversation around Bobby Drake.
Well, I
Um,
mean, it also
but
kind of
also
makes
I
me
feel like we're past that point anyways, so
it kind of makes me curious. I'll have to think about this a little bit more, maybe, but like, okay, so he seemed to have an ethical consideration that is valid there about like how that
yeah.
was revealed, and yet some of the things that Bobby says here that seem like, I mean, I don't know, like, I can understand somebody who has never put much thought into the plight of the gay man, so to speak, might think that this is something only a straight person would think or whatever, but like, I don't know, it just seems weird that he would have that consideration up top, and then other points in the video he's like almost kind of naive about gay people.
And you know what? He might be, right? Like, we can't expect everyone to know a gay person. But that
Fair
if you're
enough.
gonna make a video, then you need to
Yeah.
do the
I
work,
mean,
right? Like,
sure.
I don't know how else to put it. Like, if you're going to be a content creator and talk about this character who has come out as gay, then you need to understand, maybe have a conversation with some gay people.
Yeah.
And if you read, and this is in the same comic, this is literally a few pages later from the panel that everyone says is definitive proof that Bobby is gay. Just a few panels.
No, not everyone says so. This the language that's being used.
I
It's what
fundamentally disagree with the language being used.
raises more alarms than anything else, to be honest.
I, like
Um,
I think, to me, I'm still at the point where, like, he has made a foundational error, and he has hit the problem in computing we call garbage in, garbage out, where, like, if his foundational assumption is that everyone is saying this about this comic, and if this comic proves it wrong, then it's wrong. Well, that's not your point one, premise one is wrong already. So it's going to be hard to get useful information out of this.
yeah, I mean, just right out of the gate, your conclusion's going to be essentially useless because, yeah. So
Right.
I'm sure he won't see this, and if he does, then like I've said, I'd like to talk to the guy, and I don't mean
Yeah.
that in like a let's debate kind of way. Like this is exactly the kind of conversation that is something I think I don't know, I'm equipped to do and would like to do because there's there's not a lot of people that are willing to engage with this stuff beyond the most reactionary response to
Right.
it, right? Like, so like you either somebody that's like, oh yeah, I'm fine, it's cool, whatever, Iceman's gay, and then they'll usually talk about uh after that they'll talk about the way it was done, which again I reiterate, he says nobody really talked about that. A lot of people talk about it. But then otherwise, you're just getting people that are like, "Oh yeah, he's had all these girlfriends. How come they're changing characters fundamentally?" And it's like, well, first of all, making a character gay doesn't change the character in any way that like matters to us as like it
Right.
matters in the sense that like, okay, so they're now dating someone of the same sex or whatever, or
Sure.
they're representative of this type of reader or whatever in that regard. But otherwise, Bobby Drake is still the same character he's always been.
Well, no,
Um,
but he's not, right? Because we've already talked about this earlier. Like, him being gay is a minor change compared to the other, like, phenomenal changes to his
Sure.
powers.
I get what I'm
recontextualizations of his powers, right? So like this is small potatoes.
What I'm saying, as far as when I say character in this context, what I'm talking about is how he behaves and how he talks, and like his he's still, even in his solo series during the Fall of X that ended not too long ago. He part of the conversation that he has with, I forget the guy's name, that fucking asshole that he fought in that one. But like part of the conversation is about how he's the class clown. You know, and he kind of like turns that on its head too, because he's like, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he gets some kind of cool line right before he, kind of finishes the guy off and shit, and about being a class clown, and it's like it's about to get to the part in this video where he talks about in this first issue where he's kind of acting goofy like a class clown, and it's that's what I mean by the characterization, not just character.
Right.
The characterization is Bobby Drake.
Yeah, he's always been kind of the goofball.
Yep.
And yeah, that is 10,000% correct.
Later, we get him basically super horny for Jean, and keep in mind that during this time, Iceman has been portrayed as a teenager. In fact, there's several lines in there saying that he's younger than everyone else, and that he gets a few minutes of free play, and so he kind of dresses up like a snowman. And it's they say you're just a 16-year-old, but they basically define a lot in this comic that he is young, and he's still a little awkward around girls, and that's just immature. Basically, that was his character for a long time. But again, if you read both this issue and then
he's still seen by some as immature. Like I remember it's not I don't know if it was Krakoan era, but I remember something from not too long ago where Wolverine was kind of getting annoyed with him for making comments about something during a fight or whatever. And he's like, basically stop fucking around and get serious kind of stuff,
Well, geez, I wonder why they've paired that character with Spider-Man so many times, a character who has never once been all about the quip.
Right. Yeah. He's never quipped.
Never, ever quipped. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's actually one of the things that I wanted. The video that I first watched. This is one I came across today, but there's another one that I wanted to talk about, and where we'll get there. But it's about where he grew up, where he lives now, that kind of stuff. It's a recent video he did. We'll get there. And yeah, I mean, true. Iceman was gay in Top Gun. That's right.
True.
But everybody in Top Gun was gay. Like literally every character was gay. So
Well, that's the movie where when they made a sequel, they retconned all the gayness out.
Yeah, the planes were totally gay. Totally.
The planes were nothing is more gay, nothing is more homosexual than a jet plane. Jet fighters, so fucking gay, let me tell you.
Issues that follow, the issue 2 through 6 or so, there's plenty of scenes.
I mean, look, watch Transformers, Starscream, come on.
Cockpits. Oh man, that's good. Just good old
it's a classic.
Comedy, folks. Comedy. All right. Onward.
Of Bobby being just as horny and after Jean as everyone else, including one scene, Cyclops saves Jean, and Bobby says, gets jealous and says, how dare you kind of save her? Any of us would have saved you. And, later we get a scene of Bobby super excited and horny saying, this is Marvel Girl's lucky day. I'm teaming up with her this time. Gangway Soaploaks. And this becomes a constant gag of all the guys are super into, super into Jean.
Okay. So this is, we're seeing what he's on to now, right? Which is that if a 16-year-old boy who, was okay, supposedly he's gay now, but when he was 16 he showed a lot of interest in girls. Does he not realize that that's a thing that happens? Or
once again, right, like has Perch talked to any gay man who has spent any amount of time in the closet? Because this is not an unusual story.
Yeah, it's
that, you know what, I'm gonna take it a step further. It's in our society pretty normal.
Yep.
Because we have a society that sort of expects a certain type of relationship, and it doesn't really tell you about other options. And demonizes them in a lot of cases, and so
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, also, so like I've known gay guys. It's like basically there's until you're in a situation, I imagine, as a gay guy who doesn't realize he's gay, and it's like, yes, the idea of being with the girl when you're 16 is definitely going to be consuming your thoughts because that's what you've been told is, you
right
know,
should be consuming your thoughts.
right, and everybody around, all the boys around you, they're talking about it and stuff like that. So of course you're going to be bending your behavior to fit with what is expected and stuff like that, and it's like not even. I would imagine it's not even like deceiving himself because he doesn't even understand yet that he's
Right.
not right. So like, but then maybe you once he gets into a physical intimacy with a girl, things might start becoming more clear that like, oh, well, this is weird, and like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like
Like
it
it's
just
always a mess and always ends kind of in a weird, messy fashion. Like the
like Bobby Drake's relationships, yeah,
right, like and to steal bot the counterpoint to that is that's a lot of like Batman has that problem, right? Is all of Batman's relationships end up in a messy breakup because they have to. That's just the nature of comic storytelling. But at the same time, there's also nothing wrong with using that fact to tell that story in a different way, which is what having him come out as gay is, right? Like it's taking it the next step, right? It is, well, we keep telling the circular story with these characters who, because creative teams change and character interest waxes and wanes, and we don't want Batman to, a whole bunch of things there. We're going to have them in a relationship and then we're going to end it and it's going to be messy. And now we're going to take it the next step. Well, people who have that in real life sometimes, but not always, are gay.
yeah. It's almost like they made it. They thought about it a bit, right? Like
Right.
to think that would the arguments of people that are like, oh well, how come he's had all these girlfriends and stuff, like the right, like Bendis would have been like, oh god, I didn't think of that, fuck, you're right, he does have 60 years of you know what I mean, like
Right.
I made a big mistake. Like yeah, gay guys don't actually hate women, in
No,
fact,
that is
so if you want to say, like, going back to the comment about how, oh, she looks like she was poured in there, dude, gay guys love women's boobs almost more than straight guys do sometimes. Like, it's am I wrong? Do I
once again, you can
not not for the
appreciate
same
the
reasons,
scenery.
not for the same
Right.
reasons, but like, yeah, they it's just, yeah, gay guys love to I don't want to generalize anybody, but I have known more than a couple of gay guys who are more than happy to comment on the physical features of women.
Um, I
Oh
yeah.
god. I wish they would. I just,
I wish they would too. Just in
uh,
the middle of Fall the House of X, just like have that. Maybe don't do that.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, what my girlfriend says whenever I told her, 'cause she didn't really know the context of what I was saying when I said that line, was like, she said it sounded like it could be an insult. Like, uh, like she looked like a sausage, like, yeah, which is pretty funny.
Uh,
But yeah, I can't imagine he turned it into that. Now he's oh, look, proof. He kissed this woman. He can't be gay because he had sex with a woman. I don't know I don't want to straw man or make a claim that he's not making
Character is revealed, whatever you want to do, be my guest, but you can't show one panel and then ignore a panel a couple pages later.
Okay. Nobody is making the claim that your fucking video is premised on. Anybody that is wrong, and they're just such a minority that I have never heard them or seen that claim made. And if I did, then I would laugh at that person and tell them they're stupid. So
yeah, I think we were talking about it
there
earlier,
you go.
right? That you're hanging the retcon on existing things. It doesn't have to hang on all the existing things. That's why it's a retcon.
Well, yeah, and then also, yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure you could, if you wanted to, you could go look through a lot of different retcons that people usually accept and find reasons why
Oh
it doesn't
my
make
God.
sense. But then you fold in the idea that this has to do with a character's sexuality. There's a social changing social acceptance of being a gay person in the world, in the country. You know, a lot of decades have passed, right? So
Right.
like the way that would have been depicted then would have been, it's so messy that to try to use it to prove or disprove, both are stupid in my opinion.
I saw someone mention Bow of the Old Ways, of course, my guy.
Yeah.
Comic panels are not delivered by God unto Moses.
True.
Like that's what Bob said, and this is something I've talked about in other fandoms. This like lore. We talked about this a few episodes of the FAP ago, when we were talking about like fandom and canon.
Gatekeeping, or
Well, just like this like with Star Wars, right? Where like we have the two different continuities, and like, oh, you know, they're changing continuity and blah blah blah. That conversation we just touched on a little bit. That like, oh, they're changing the lore.
yeah.
Well, yeah, correct. I don't know what to like. That is not a good or bad thing. That is just a thing that necessarily happens.
Right.
When you have a bunch of people telling a bunch of stories over decades about the same group of people, like things are just going to contradict each other, and you're just going to have to be okay with it. That's kind of it, right? Like,
Well,
sure,
and
you can try and work the changes in and hang it off of certain things, but like, we're not talking about, you know, the Bible. We're not talking about like the fundamental laws of physics. These are fictional characters. It's fine. I think what it brings, just his tenor throughout the video and the sort of thing he seems sort of hung up on, it is just like, have you talked to a gay person who spent any time in the closet? Any one gay person who was closeted, who didn't realize they were gay when they were a teenager or as an adult, even, like, it's such a common story if you spend any time around those people and get to know them. To get hung up on it is just like, well, do you know anything about this group of people? No? Well, then why are you talking about them? Like, you know something about X-Men, and that's great, cool. I'm sure we could talk shop about X-Men, but like, if you're going to talk about comics characters being gay, then maybe have a conversation with a gay person who can speak to what that experience is like, because otherwise you're just going to sound ignorant, and that's what he sounds like. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
right.
And that's fine. We're allowed to not know things, but then the next step is to then learn.